Welcome to Defending Digital. I'm Chad Warner. Today I'd like to talk to you about the book Future Crimes: Everything is Connected, Everyone is Vulnerable, and What We Can Do About It by Marc Goodman. It's a chilling look at a spectrum of current and future threats to digital security and privacy. It contains frightening true stories that illustrate the dangers. I'd like to share my summary of the book with you, and I also encourage you to read the book for yourself. A summary of the book. It's clear that Goodman is a subject matter expert and did his research. The book is engaging, though it could benefit from being condensed. The book contains some security and privacy tips, mostly in the appendix, but the focus of the book is raising awareness of digital crime in the present and future. Goodman warns that we're racing forward with new technologies when we haven't even secured what we already have. He says, quote, "Given our inability to secure today's global information matrix, how might we ever protect a world in which every physical object, from pets to pacemakers to self-driving cars, is connected to the net and hackable from anywhere on the planet?" End quote. The author, Marc Goodman, was futurist in residence with the FBI, and he also worked as a senior advisor to Interpol. He's the founder of the Future Crimes Institute and the chair for policy, law, and ethics at Silicon Valley's Singularity University. Now, some notes from the chapters. From the chapter, Connected, Dependent, and Vulnerable. By the time security software companies update their software, it's often too late. The time to detection rate, the time from the introduction of the malware to its discovery by the security industry, is growing. There has been an increase in zero-day attacks. As Goodman says, quote, "The antivirus era is over," end quote. From the chapter, You're Not the Customer, You're the Product. Everything you ask Siri is recorded by Apple for at least 2 years. Your friends and family leak data about you. Each time someone puts your name, address, birthday, or other info into Google or iPhone contacts or Outlook calendar, or they tag you at an event on Facebook, that data is available to those companies. Even if you don't have a Google account, if you send an email to a Gmail user, Google has those emails. You should frequently review your privacy settings because companies often change them and can undo your settings. When you buy an Android app in the Google Play Store, Google gives the app company your name, email address, and the location where you live. McAfee reported that 82% of Android apps track your online activities, and 80% collect location information. From the chapter, The Surveillance Economy. Data brokers, unlike credit reporting agencies, are almost entirely unregulated by the government. No laws require them to safeguard consumer privacy, correct factual errors, or reveal what info they store. If someone says, "You shouldn't worry about privacy unless you have something to hide," ask them if they'd object to the following being made public: a video of them having sex, their tax returns, or a video of them using the bathroom. In the US, social networks are considered public spaces, not private ones, and any info shared there is covered under third-party doctrine, meaning users have no reasonable expectation of privacy in the data that the service providers collect on them. This is an exception to the Fourth Amendment prohibition of unreasonable search and seizure. From the chapter, Big Data, Big Risk. Goodman's law, as he describes it in the book, is, quote, "The more data you produce and store, the more organized crime is happy to consume," end quote. He says eventually your personal details will fall into the hands of criminal cartels, competitors, and foreign governments. 75% of people use the same password for multiple websites, and 30% use the same login info for all their online activities. This means if one account is compromised, many or all of your accounts can be. You can't trust the privacy settings to keep data private, because a company may change its terms of service or its privacy settings, which may loosen privacy. Or your account could be compromised, and that would make your privacy settings useless. Kids are 51 times more likely to be victims of identity theft than adults, according to a Carnegie Mellon study. 4 out of 5 kids can't tell when they're talking to an adult posing as a child online. Criminals monitor social media to see when you're on vacation, and then they contact your elderly relatives to tell them that you've been in an accident and that they need money for your treatment. From the chapter, IT Phones Home. Quote, "Mobile phones may be the most insecure of all devices. The software is notoriously easy to subvert, the risks are poorly understood, and the systems for device protection are immature and wholly undeveloped." End quote. Malware can give attackers access to your phone's microphone, camera, and location in real time. 99% of mobile malware targets Android, according to a Cisco study. Android is insecure due to a lack of updates and bug fixes. Carriers are more interested in selling new phones than updating old ones. Carriers and manufacturers tweak each installation of Android, an expensive process that causes them to limit updates. This customization process, and the insecure software they add, leads to 60% of Android security threats. On the other hand, Apple controls their entire hardware and software ecosystem, making their iOS more secure. Third-party Android app sources often lack security screening. Jailbreaking iOS devices opens them to the same security threats that are common to Android. And then a quote, in 2012, the U.S. Department of Justice revealed that there were 3.4 million victims of stalking annually, and among those, hundreds of thousands who were tracked by spyware and GPS hacks. End quote. Automatic license plate readers and their databases allow the location tracking of individuals who aren't charged with or suspected of any crime. Some retailers track the location of customers' phones in their stores via their Wi-Fi and MAC addresses. A quote, criminals will gain access to all this information over time via the digital underground and use it to blackmail, bribe, and stalk targets of their choosing. End quote. So far, the major threat to big data has been theft and leakage. In the future, the worst danger will be unauthorized alteration of information that the world depends on to operate. From the chapter, In Screen We Trust. We trust our screens to tell the truth, but what appears on screens can be misleading, faked, or spoofed. Electronic medical records are often insecure. Hackers can change them, resulting in injury and death to patients. 80% of the time, children under 18 can't tell when they're communicating with an adult online. Pedophiles often portray themselves as children. From the chapter, Mo Screens, Mo Problems. Set a voicemail password, or bad actors may be able to access it by spoofing your phone number. The FBI has reportedly turned phones into eavesdropping devices. Criminals can do the same. Portable GPS jammers are inexpensive and can affect cars, cellular towers, power grids, air traffic control, and ATMs. Hackers can control navigational screens to cause ships, trucks, cars, and aircraft to change course. Goodman says, quote, all data presented on screens are hackable, end quote. In 2011, it was revealed that the U.S. used fake online personas to manipulate online conversations and spread pro-American views on social media. According to Freedom House, at least 22 governments manipulate social media for propaganda. From the chapter, Crime, Inc. According to a 2014 study by Rand Corporation, 80% of hackers work with or for organized crime. From the chapter, When All Things Are Hackable. There have been dozens of exploits against RFID, which can be easily hacked, spoofed, and jammed. The majority of RFID tags have no effective security, encryption, or privacy protocols. Hackers can wirelessly capture data from RFID credit cards. NFC, Near Field Communications, has been compromised many times, as has Google Wallet. Bluetooth is easily subverted. Don't trust public USB chargers. Hackers have infected many of them, which will infect your phone. From the chapter, Home Hacked Home. Hackers and pedophiles routinely compromise baby monitors to watch babies and mothers. Home and office security cameras are vulnerable. More than 20 major brands have widespread flaws. Nearly 70% of users never change the default usernames and passwords, making it easy for bad actors to access them. GM's OnStar microphone can be turned on remotely without your knowledge. If a hacker puts an inexpensive tool in your car, they'll be able to remotely control your lights, locks, steering, and brakes. They can hack remotely via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Here's a quote from the book that I liked. While the Internet of Things may offer Jetsonian convenience, joining all of these objects to the IoT, that's Internet of Things, will of course bring its own set of privacy and security risks. End quote. A 2014 study by HP found 70% of IoT devices were vulnerable, with an average of 25 unique security flaws per object. IoT toys have been subverted, allowing hackers to listen to and watch children. Hackers go after the weakest link in your network, which is likely to be an IoT device. Security alarm systems are easily hacked. The majority use legacy wireless protocols from the 1990s that don't encrypt or authenticate transmissions. They can be used to spy on you and have alarms suppressed. Newer systems with Z-Wave can also be hacked. Many smart TVs have security vulnerabilities, allowing hackers to remotely control the camera. Smart utility meters are vulnerable to malware that can spread from home to home. An infection caused a power outage in Puerto Rico. The Nest thermostat has been hacked. The Nest drop cam cameras have been hacked, allowing hackers to watch video remotely, enable the camera microphone, and inject fake video into the video stream. In 2014, a security researcher seized control of the power supply to a German town. A hacker could use the same exploit to turn off all utilities. From the chapter, Hacking You. Hearing aids can be hacked just like Bluetooth headsets. IoT glasses can be switched on with no indication that they're recording. Between 2004 and 2014, nearly 25% of all medical device recalls were because of computer-related failures, and 94% presented a medium to high risk of severe health consequences. Many devices in hospitals have been riddled with malware and remotely exploitable. In 2013, DHS alerted that over 300 devices from 40 vendors were vulnerable. Researchers were able to read confidential patient info from a wireless pacemaker and were capable of delivering would-be fatal electrical jolts. Wireless diabetic pumps can be compromised with fatal results. Biometrics are vulnerable because certain biological markers can be copied, and databases containing biometric data can be compromised. When biometrics are stolen, there's no password reset. Fingerprint, face, and iris scanners can be hacked. Quote, AR, which is augmented reality, will also bring with it a host of security and privacy questions that need to be addressed. The more we disconnect from reality and accept the virtual in place of the real, the more we open ourselves to manipulation via in-screen we trust type attacks. End quote. From the chapter Rise of the Machines, When Cybercrime Goes 3D. Robots, like all IoT devices, can be hacked. Quote, as a result of advances in robotics, cybercrime will finally escape its virtual confines and explode onto our physical space. End quote. Robots can be used to spy and will be able to be used to follow, hit, shoot, stab, and kill. From the chapter Next Generation Security Threats, Why Cyber Was Only the Beginning. Quote, our genetic material reveals more about us than any hacked online account ever might, and our DNA can be used to harm us medically. End quote. By gathering genetic material left somewhere by someone, attackers will be able to create a customized, weaponized biological virus targeting that person. Quote, hacking your genetic information will be the identity theft of tomorrow, especially as DNA becomes widely used for authentication. End quote. A quantum computer could potentially bypass encryption protocols. Conversely, quantum tech might also allow for, quote, fully secure, uncrackable communications, since any observation or interception of a quantum encryption key during transit would change its content. End quote. From the chapter Surviving Progress. Too often, software developers follow the maxims, quote, move fast and break things, just ship it, and done is better than perfect. End quotes. And Goodman says, quote, these attitudes represent perhaps the single largest threat against computer security today. End quote. Goodman also includes a quote here, quote, advertising is the original sin of the web. The fallen state of our internet is a direct, if unintentional consequence of choosing advertising as the default model to support online content and services. End quote. If companies charged users rather than selling advertising, it would make for a more secure private web. Quote, it's time to kill the password and move on to multi-factor authentication and biometrics, tools that, though far from perfect, are an immense improvement over passwords. End quote. Data breaches and theft would do far less damage if all data was encrypted by default. All web traffic should be encrypted. You should encrypt your computer and phone. Then there are 4 key strategies from the Australian government. These steps mitigate against 85% of targeted intrusions, according to the Australian government. 1. application whitelisting. Only allow specifically authorized programs to run. 2. Automatically update all applications. 3. Automatically update your operating system, Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, etc., and use the latest OS. 4. Restrict admin privileges and use a basic user account, except for the brief times that you truly need to log in as an admin. Quote, 97% of all data breaches were avoidable by implementing simple or intermediate level controls, end quote, according to a study by Verizon and the U.S. Secret Service. From the appendix, titled Everything's Connected, Everyone's Vulnerable, Here's What You Can Do About It, Goodman provides the update protocol, and update there is an acronym. So these are practical, everyday tips to protect from the most common tech dangers. U. Update frequently to patch vulnerabilities. Automatically update all software, operating system, software, applications, etc. P. Passwords should be long, 20 or more digits, and contain upper and lowercase letters, symbols, and spaces. Change your passwords often. Don't use the same passwords across sites. Use a password manager from a well-known established company. 1Password, LastPass, KeePass, Dashlane, etc. And use two-factor authentication. D. Download software only from official sites, the Apple App Store, Google Play, or a company's verified website. Be highly skeptical of third-party sites and free software. Avoid pirated media and software available on peer-to-peer networks. Pay attention to apps and their permissions. A. Administrator accounts should only be used when necessary. Use a standard user account for the majority of your use. T. Turn off the computer when not using it to reduce its threat profile. Turn off services and connections on your phone unless you truly need them. Things like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC, hotspot. E. Encrypt data at rest and in transit. Use full disk encryption. BitLocker for Windows, FileVault for Mac. Use a VPN, a virtual private network, to encrypt internet traffic, especially when using public Wi-Fi. Encrypt your phone. Always set a password on your phone, and consider using biometric security like Touch ID. Additional safety tips. 1. Be wary of any request to click a link or open an attachment, even when it appears to be from someone you know. When in doubt, check with the person who supposedly sent the message, using a different channel. 2. Don't plug USB drives, hard drives, or phones into your computer without first scanning them for malware. Disable auto run for USB drives. 3. Backup frequently. You can use Time Machine on Mac or Windows Backup or Cloud Backup from Carbonite, Backblaze, or SpiderOak. Encrypt your data before uploading it to the cloud, and keep multiple backups. 4. Cover the camera lens when it's not in use. You can use tape or a Post-it note. 5. Only do sensitive browsing, banking, shopping, etc. on a device that belongs to you, on a network you trust. Be wary of devices and networks that you don't own. 6. Think before you share on social media. Stalkers, burglars, and other criminals monitor social media to learn of vacations and other outings. 7. Use your operating system firewall and enable stealth mode. So I recommend that you read the book. Again, the title is Future Crimes, Everything is Connected, Everyone is Vulnerable, and What We Can Do About It. And the author is Marc Goodman. And on the resources page at defendingdigital.com, we do have additional cybersecurity and privacy books. So what should you do? Like I said, I do recommend that you read the book. This summary that I've given here isn't a substitute for the book itself. So I've handpicked several tips now here that I will leave you with. 1. Frequently review your privacy settings because companies often change them and can undo your settings. 2. Set a voicemail password, or bad actors may be able to access it by spoofing your phone number. 3. Change the default username and password on all network-connected devices. 4. Ask about the security of any medical devices you use, and ask how you can increase their security. 5. Set all your software to update automatically. Operating systems such as Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and Android, as well as all programs, apps, or other software on your computers, phones, tablets, and other network-connected devices. 6. Passwords should be long, 20 or more digits, and contain upper and lowercase letters, symbols, and spaces. 7. Don't use the same password across sites. 8. Use a password manager from a well-known established company. 1Password, LastPass, KeePass, Dashlane, etc. 9. Use two-factor authentication. And we do have a post on the website about two-factor authentication. 10. Turn off services and connections on your phone unless you truly need them. Things like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC, hotspot. 11. Encrypt your computer using full disk encryption. BitLocker for Windows, FileVault for Mac. 12. Encrypt your phone. Always set a password and consider biometric security, such as Touch ID available on iPhones. 13. Be wary of any request to click a link or open an attachment, even when it appears to be from someone you know. When in doubt, check with the person who supposedly sent the message using a different channel. For example, if you receive the message through email, contact them via text message. 14. Backup frequently. You can use Time Machine on Mac or Windows Backup and or Cloud Backup from Carbonite, Backblaze, or Spider Oak. I also like iDrive, and I'll be publishing more about that in the future. Encrypt data before uploading it to the cloud. 15. Only do sensitive browsing, such as banking and shopping, on a device that belongs to you on a network you trust. Be wary of devices and networks that you don't own. Finally, 16. Think before you share on social media. Stalkers, burglars, and other criminals monitor social media to learn when you'll be away from home. That's all for today. You can learn more about digital security and privacy at defendingdigital.com.